Hello and welcome back to the ICA show. Today, I am joined by Mr. David Milstein, who just played in Nationals, K-12 Nationals, and did quite well. David, tell me a bit about your K-12 Nationals.
Well, I did. Well, I had a decent tournament. Well, actually, it was a pretty good tournament. First, before the rounds started, I played in a simul against a GM who I believe will be commentating on our analysis, and almost got a draw. Didn't happen though. That's bad, honestly, but what can you do? Then I got 4 points out of 7. Out of the 5 points I got out of the 5 points I played up for, I got 2.5 of. So that wasn't bad. And that's about it.
Yeah, it was sounds like a pretty good tournament to me. And additionally, just adding on to David's point, the Grandmaster was Elshan Muradiabadi, who tomorrow will be reacting to our commentary on our games and will be trying to roast us and make us look like absolute fools. But hopefully,
he'll probably succeed.
Yeah, hopefully we'll provide good analysis, but I don't know if it's going to be GM worthy. So David, just a few quick questions about you and your chess playing experience before we get into your game. First, when did you start playing chess, and how did you start playing chess?
Well, I started playing chess about 11 years ago when my dad taught me after about 3 too many games of Chutes and Ladders. And I enjoyed it, so I've kept at it.
Yeah, sounds like a great way to start playing the game. Did you immediately start playing competitively, or did you,
No, for some reason I was kind of afraid to. For the first few years, I played in my first tournament at 6.
And how old are you now?
14.
All right. So yeah, it's been a pretty good journey, and yeah, now you're here. All right. So I believe we will be getting into the first game. All right. So if you guys can see the board, this game, David is playing with the white pieces, and his opponent is actually a national master. So David, take us into the game.
So I started with e4, and he plays Sicilian. So being contrarian I play Alpin because I don't think I know a Sicilian player who doesn't get annoyed when someone plays the Alpin against them.
Yeah, so as a Sicilian player, I hate the Alpin. So bad. You always played against me, and it's just so annoying.
And then he plays knight f6 here, which I'm going to say I hadn't seen before. Like, have you seen this at any point, Thomas?
No, I have not. It seems kind of weird. I know the main line is supposed to be queen d5, but knight f6 does make some sense. Trying to recapture the pawn with the knight, but I'm wondering if white can actually hang on to the pawn with this move queen a4. And if you block naturally with bishop d7, I go back to b3 and I hit the pawn on b7. I defend my pawn on d5. Soon bishop c4, knight f3, and I think maybe this would be good for white. David, did you consider queen a4? Maybe?
Honestly, no. I probably went way too fast considering he played something that I hadn't seen before. Queen a4 was completely off my radar. My thinking was more along the lines of this. I'm playing somebody 400 points higher rated than me. Let's see what I can do to try to transpose back into theory. So I played d4. Mm-hmm. If I'd probably been thinking more, I probably would have played queen a4 or bishop b5.
Yeah. Both moves are logical. But okay, d4, I think just transfers back to theory. Um,
It would have if he'd taken with the queen, but then he takes with the knight.
mhm.
And at this point, I was kind of thinking that in a couple of other lines, c4, d5 is a thing, and if it's good there, why shouldn't it be good here? I know there's probably like a ton of reasons why it shouldn't be good here. I believe the computer says that I'm already minus 0.2, but the time, so I played it.
Yeah,
He
sorry, but it certainly does look good for white. Just one line, um, maybe that would be interesting. I was wondering if you can take on c5, and I assume the point of this would just to get this 3-on-2 endgame, and I think it's probably going to be around equal, but as a sample line, something like e6, knight f3, bishop c5, bishop d3. Um, I would assume that most endgames are pretty good for white, but I don't think it gives much. So I do like the move c4 here.
Yeah, at the time, I thought I might have a lot more of an advantage than I actually did, which was none. But I thought that I'd be getting these great pawns on c4 and d5, and that I'd just develop all my pieces and have a space advantage, and that's kind of not really how it worked out. But that's kind of what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
He played knight f6. I played d5, and he plays e6, which is logical. He's challenging my center. I pretty much, I want to say had to go knight c3, but I'm sure there's something else here that I missed. Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think knight c3 should be the best move. I mean, it's certainly the most ambitious move. Like you could take on e6 and trade queens, but after bishop e6 and you trade queens, I think
He
black.
could probably trade queens on d1, though.
Right, yeah, he'll trade on d1. Sorry, first bishop e6. He's ahead in development. Your king is misplaced. This doesn't look great. So yeah, I think knight
I
c3
would,
has got to
I
be
would
the.
not have really considered that much at all, just because he immediately is just, I think, better. Not a lot better, but just better. And I'd be accepting that he was better. And I tend not to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I like knight c3. I mean, it's just the most logical move. So I think it's definitely a good move.
He plays bishop d6 here. And at the time, I was thinking that while that does develop a piece, he's also thinking about putting his bishop on e5, and that would kind of just be annoying because then he could trade for c3 and hit d5. I'm not sure if that's good or not, but it scared me enough that I figured that just playing knight f3 here and preventing the bishop from going there was just the most logical.
Yeah, for sure agree with that idea. So I believe he castled.
Yeah, makes most sense. And then I kind of had no idea what to do here, so I kind of defaulted on principled chess and developed my bishop.
Logical move.
And he decides that now's a good time to trade the e pawn for the c pawn. And here, I think my first really important decision of the game came. How exactly do I capture? I could have captured with a knight, the pawn. Well, I can say I could have captured with the queen, but not really. So I'm just queen
Yeah.
e8. And
Yeah.
so under a knight, and in my mind, I thought I'd gained that space in the center, so I must be better because all of my moves have made sense. And so I was thinking that by that logic, taking with the knight would make the pawn structure boringly even and very hard to have an advantage in. And so if we're assuming, incorrectly mind you, but that was my assumption at the time, that I'm playing for an advantage and that I have an advantage, the only way that advantage would be possible would be if I take with the pawn. So I take with the pawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I for sure agree with this. I think if you take with the knight, I was thinking maybe he could throw in a check with queen e8, and then
What
maybe
if
trade on d5.
what if
Um,
I played 93 though?
yeah, you could play 93, but right. So you're attacking the bishop. Knight. I was thinking 94 here. Don't know if it's a great move. Uh,
94. I did not see that.
yeah.
That's kind
Also,
of annoying.
yeah. Maybe queen e6 followed by rook d8. I mean, this kind of piece cube. It seems a little bit suspicious. These knights are kind of weird, and I think black should be fine here. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So that means that taking with the pawn is probably the right decision.
yeah,
Um,
good point. So he checks me, and I feel like there's only one real move here, so I play it.
yeah.
He plays a6 here. One sideline, I mean, well, not exactly sideline, but one consideration was bishop g4. And here, he's threatening to take on f3, and because of this pin here, I won't be able to recapture with my bishop, so I'd have to take with the pawn, and that'd be really ugly. But here, I'm just fine after I castle. And
I actually kind of do like this for black because it feels like black in this position, his queen side is a bit underdeveloped, and when he plays a6, or if he plays knight d7 in the future, this bishop, he's not going to be able to develop quickly. But bishop g4 creating a threat, and then maybe just knight d7, and it seems like black has developed all of his pieces, and it's just a game. But in comparison, this position, it seems like black's queen side is just kind of lacking a bit in development. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's completely fine, but I do like the move bishop g4, even though it doesn't pose like too much of a serious threat after castles.
that's fair. From a developing standpoint, it was probably good, but I wasn't exactly afraid of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
He did, in fact, play a6. And I'm not sure whether this was more about playing b5 or about stopping me from going to b5, but I was not about to take the chance that he'd go b5. And I did kind of have my eyes on pushing my pawn to a5, so I played a4 here. And
Yeah.
here, he clearly did not want me to go to a5, so he played b6. And here, in the game, I saw a somewhat unusual idea of rook lifting that a8 rook to a7 and then e7. I don't know whether this was good or not, but it looked kind of cool. So
Yeah, I think it is definitely a really interesting idea. But I think it's definitely a great idea. But the problem with bringing the rook to e7 is probably the knight on f6, right? So that means
oh
he'd have
yeah, that's a good point.
knight d7, or bishop b7. But
That
now,
blocked the rook lift.
yeah, now this bishop is kind of like, okay, let's say like just white castles. You can either develop the bishop out here, like bishop g4, but with the inclusion of these moves,
The
maybe,
white squares are kind of messed up.
yeah, and it doesn't look fantastic. And if you play bishop b7, well, I mean, gotta just ask, what the heck is this bishop doing? I mean, it's not got a huge role in the game.
I mean, it is kind of going after that pawn, which is a bit of a deal.
Yeah,
But
that is
it
true.
wasn't. It totally was not the piece that completely changed the game or anything.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's definitely a good idea to go after the pawn, but currently I think it's defended enough. And if white maybe tries to get something started on the king side, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to come up with ideas for white, but kind of playing on the king side is one of my original ideas. The bishop just seems a bit misplaced, and I don't know if you're going to be able to win the d5 pawn anytime soon. So, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that's
there's
that's fair.
trade-offs for there's trade-offs for each move. if you develop to g4, light squares get a little bit weak. But if you develop here, bishop could be out of the game.
Here's a question for you then. If you think that e6 and a6 weren't good inclusions, and here I feel like he kind of had to play b6 to keep me from playing to keep me from playing a5. Do you think that means a6, but a6 in the first place was a mistake?
I'm not sure, because in these positions, I think a6 might be okay. But yeah, I think stopping b5 is very important. But currently I'm wondering if he just plays something like bishop g4 and you go a5, and what if he plays something like
I probably wouldn't play a5 immediately, because if I played a5 immediately, he could take on f3 again. So maybe he could have gone bishop g4, and then I could have castled.
But even here, if he goes for something like, I don't know, just kind of like knight d7, a5, and bishop c7.
How about queen a4 here?
Yeah. Of course, queen a4 holds the pawn, but I'm not completely sure. I'm not completely sure if this is like that good for white, because I mean, okay, yes, there's going to be pressure against b7 probably, but really how? Like, this a5 pawn seems a bit weak. You're never really going to play b4, and I mean, it seems slightly annoying for black. His pieces seem a little bit tied up, but I mean, after something like just an example, bishop f3, bishop f3, knight e5, or just maybe knight e5 in the first place. At least for me, it feels like black is okay, kind of dodging all the complications, hardships.
He kind of is.
But okay, b6. I mean, it does seem like a good move to play. But okay. So I guess you canceled. And
didn't he play knight d7 here?
Yes, I believe he did. So yeah, rook e1.
Basically, I'm gonna say here, I basically didn't really know what I was supposed to do, so I figured, okay, if I make moves that are just good, then it'll work out for me.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that philosophy. Although I would like to ask, did you have any plans or ideas you were at least trying to play for here, or was it just kind of make moves?
I really wanted to somehow make a5 work and mess with his pawns, but I wasn't seeing how it would happen. And other than that, I kind of didn't really know what I was supposed to do, because I'm really not used to this pawn structure at all. But I was just going with what's my weakest piece, how do I improve it, what's my opponent's plan, and where are the weak squares philosophy.
Yeah, all that seems very logical, and rook e1 seems like an improving move. Seems like a good move, but in the long term, is white going to play on the king side? That was my first intention. I do like your idea of rook a3, potentially bringing the rook over to the king side.
I was thinking about that, but I was having trouble imagining how I'd get my knights out of the way to make something like that worthwhile.
Yeah, that seems to be the problem. So yeah, it's a difficult position. No clear plans. Not that I'm aware of, but it seems like rook e1 is definitely a good move. So what did he play here?
So here he went bishop b7. He does seem to have some pretty obvious natural plans. He just wants to develop his pieces and go for it.
Yeah, maybe.
And his pieces, despite the lack of space, seem to know exactly where they are and exactly how to improve, and that's really starting to annoy me here. And so with my next move, I once again asked myself, what pieces do I want to improve? What's my opponent's plan? Where are the weak squares? In this case, I couldn't really come up with how to use the weak squares, but from an opponent's plan perspective, a lot of his pieces are pointed at d5, so protecting d5 makes sense. And my weakest piece is my e2 bishop, which is currently doing about nothing, so I figured going bishop c4 felt like it was logical, and I'm not sure that was right. I mean, I had second thoughts about putting it behind the pawn, but I really had no idea what else to do, so I went for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think bishop c4 is completely logical. Maybe also using just the idea of improving the worst piece. Maybe the rook on a1 deserves a chance. Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't seem like it has any great places to go right now. So I'm not sure it's time to develop it. But I was thinking to consider that. But I think bishop c4 should be a logical move, and
I think
probably a good one.
I think in hindsight, queen d2 would probably be a little bit better, because queen d2 would connect my rooks, which is nice, and it would also give me ideas of playing bishop f4 and trading my bishop on g5, which isn't doing much either. The pin isn't that valuable in my opinion, to going to f4, where I can trade it for that d6 bishop, which is currently blocking a pawn from advancing. I wanted my pawn to advance, and I just feel like trading that would benefit me, so going queen d2 might make sense. I mean, I couldn't do it immediately, because after bishop f4, b takes f4, queen takes f4, he'd have two attackers on the pawn, but something to consider long term.
Yeah, queen d2 makes sense. Also, a move that's kind of caught my eye, knight d2. Couple ideas, either bring the knight to e4 or c4 to attack the bishop and the weak pawn.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, maybe knight d2 does deserve some love. Because
what about queen c7 though?
Yeah, queen c7, okay. Of course, attacks the pawn.
And it also attacks d5.
And attacks. Yes. So I'm wondering. Yeah, maybe this is
actually. No, you can't give away the pawn. I was thinking about doing something sneaky with like g3, but it's checked, so the bishop would just be able to retreat the next move, so that's not going to work.
I'm wondering if there's another way to give up the pawn, like just knight c4, let him take on h2. Maybe something like that deserves something. But yeah, maybe this is just a bit of a problem. But I mean, maybe even here you can play knight f1, and although it looks a little bit stupid, maybe the knight potentially wants to go to f5, which would be a really, really juicy square. And then all of a sudden, some chances for a kingside attack would be brilliant. And although this looks a little passive, a little slow.
Yeah, I can see what that would make sense, but I also kind of let them maybe play h6 or something, and then bring his other knight out to e5 and start basically breaking out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so yeah.
It might be good, though.
Yeah, interesting plan. Maybe knight f1 isn't the move. Maybe
I think it might be.
Seeing.
Maybe it's promising.
Of course, I always wanted to consider knight c4, but
nah, you're just down a pawn there. I don't think you really have much.
Yeah, no, there's not much compensation for that. So maybe knight d2 is not the move. Maybe just h3, right? And then
h3 is kind of nice.
Yeah, h3. But then again, you might go queen c7, and again knight d2 is not going to work because d5 would be hanging.
That said, I could prepare that with bishop c4, which I did actually play, and then go knight d2 because I'd have more defense on that pawn. So maybe bishop c4 might have prepared knight d2 even if I wasn't thinking about knight d2, which I probably should have been.
So maybe bishop c4 is a good move. Maybe bishop c4 is actually the best move, right?
Possibly, but I doubt it. It's just
Yeah.
intuitively, I feel like there should be something better, and I think that something better probably is either queen d2 or that knight d2 knight f1 plan.
Yeah, and the problem with knight d2 is queen c7, right? So what I'm wondering is if we go back one move before you play rook e1, could you go knight d2 here? Would that make more sense? Without the bishop on b7, and now these knight jumps look a bit more enticing.
I think about that one, but makes sense. What about queen c7 anyway?
Queen c7, yeah. Probably just h3, right? And now we can't take on d5, and if you play bishop e7, knight c4, knight's really strong. Maybe this is a good plan for white.
It could work. What if black? Actually, no. Bishop f4, trade the bishops isn't that great because really the black bishop is more valuable than the white one, and because the one on g5 just isn't helping much right now.
And I was wondering if after bishop f4 is there just d6. Queen c6 threatens mate with bishop f3.
Yeah, the tactics seem to work for me here.
So yeah, maybe rook e1 instead of playing rook e1, maybe knight d2 was a good move.
Yeah, maybe that was a missed opportunity there.
All right, well, that was an interesting little analysis, but let's get back to the actual game, where you played bishop c4, and what did your opponent play here?
Here he played rook takes e1. He's trading rooks. I take queen. He goes queen c7, and here I'm kind of afraid of rook e8, and so I come up with what I feel like is what I felt like was kind of a clever move. And I don't think the computer agrees with me on this one, but I played queen f1. The idea being I want to pressure a6 and make way for my rook on e1.
Yeah, it actually looks like a really good move. I mean, it seems like such a strong move. You're gonna improve the rook next move. You tie down his rook and bishop. Yeah, I really like queen f1. I think it's a.
Here's a question for you though. Supposing you just played rook e8, I wouldn't actually be able to take on a6 because he'd be able to take on d5. I'm going to play that out on the board. So rook e8, bishop takes a6. He could actually just take here and win the pawn back. And maybe I could trade.
I mean,
this is probably okay for me, but I doubt I'm like decisively better or anything.
Well, okay. Yeah, maybe not. Sorry, not rook b1. I was thinking rook d1, putting a bit of pressure, but I was wondering if you, instead of doing this, can you play knight b5?
Knight b5 could work, but just queen b8 I feel like is defending it.
Of course.
I mean, it's probably still slightly better for me, but now I could convert this into a win against a national master.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can trade and play something like rook d1, but maybe just queen c6. There's not much here. Well, okay, queen c6, bishop b5. At least you have to be a little careful. But yeah, this doesn't look like much. It seems like white might have some pressure, but it doesn't look like much. So yeah, so if you did play rook e8, what were you going to do instead of taking on a6?
I consider rook e1. I consider rook d1. I'd probably consider h3, but I'd probably just keep playing the game without taking on a6.
Yeah, maybe rook d1, right? Just defending the pawn on d5 threatens
so that I can hit a6. He might play queen c8 here. If he plays a5 here, I'd be pretty happy because of that b5 weakness.
Yeah. That would be. I mean, a5 would just for any viewers that don't understand why this would be so bad.
It just
Look,
gives away the B5
look at
square.
the light scores, right? So
And
5.
if I doubt there's anything tactically proving it bad, but it just looks like I should have an advantage based on using those light squares long term.
Yeah, and even if you take the bishop and
Then
place
my bishop could
bishop
theoretically
F4
sneak in there. Oh yeah,
and
getting the
suddenly,
bishop back to G3, and then I'd be able to pretty much forcingly advance the pawn to D6. That'd be very good for me. I didn't think of that.
yeah, his bishop is bad. Your bishop is good. Bishop can come to B5. White would be probably positionally almost winning here.
I don't know about winning, but I'd definitely rather be white.
So yeah, of course A5 would be a bad move. Maybe just queen C8.
Maybe queen C8. Another interesting one though is knight G4
Knight G4, right?
because it's hitting H2.
And if
then if H3, play knight H2.
Knight H2.
And then probably forced trade. Knight takes H2, bishop takes H2.
King H1. So okay, this is super interesting position. White's threatening, I think, G3 to trap the bishop. And threatening A6. And maybe threatening D6 at some point.
Yeah, this probably isn't very good, come to think of it, but
Probably white should be better here. But okay.
I want to come back to like that bishop F4 idea though.
Yeah,
I'd
so
be
black
just bishop F4, trade on F4, bishop takes H6, take. I'm gonna play that on the board because that's a lot.
Well, actually, hold on. Is there D6 here?
Bishop takes.
Queen D3?
Queen C6. Or
I'm wondering bishop D5 maybe. Then I take here.
okay, let's go slightly back a little bit. Maybe there's something. Okay. I'm kind of tempted by letting you capture on D6 and trying to make a rook E1 check thing work.
Aha, yeah. So what move would you say?
Maybe I'm thinking about. I'm not sure here. This is gonna take some tactics to it. Okay, funny move here. Bishop F8.
Bishop F8. Wow.
Because if Queen takes D7, rook E1 check. And the only option really is to capture. If Bishop F1, I capture it. I'm up another bishop. And if you take my rook, I take your queen. So I think I can get away with this.
Okay, hold on. Is there? I'm still trying to look for something.
I feel like Queen F5 is worth looking at, though.
Yeah, Queen F5 hits F7, hits D7, and if maybe this is
Knight E5, though. I mean, that looks like it sends everything and attacks C4, so you can't just play F4 and kick him out. You could play Bishop F4, though. Go for like a pin.
Yeah, this is an insane line. And I guess whatever you do next move, I want to take and play rook D7, right? So, for example, if you just play a random move like H6. Or,
that was pretty random.
Yeah, no, that's... Maybe that's not a great move. Let's
Actually, yeah, let's say H6 for the sake of the argument. Bishop takes, the queen can't take because queen takes F7, it looks pretty good. And if rook takes, rook D7 also looks pretty good. But what if I played bishop C6 instead of H6?
And here maybe queen D7 too.
Queen D7. I think there I could just trade queen and play rook E7.
Or doesn't rook E1 just win the queen?
Oh yeah, that again. That's funny.
Yeah, so okay, maybe there's not much here.
I think there might be though. But I mean like for black though. Like I don't think white actually has anything, but I want to like play it out a little bit. So like here, how do I
Maybe bishop.
What if I played bishop c8?
Bishop c8. Okay.
Because bishop c6 leaves a6 open, but bishop
Okay.
c8 also has the
Bishop
benefit of driving
c8
queen out.
is a move. I'm wondering, can I take here?
And if I recapture with the rook,
I don't know if bishop f7 works, but I feel like I want to play it.
I feel like I'd want to play it too, honestly.
But here it's difficult, right? I guess.
And we're just even material here, so I could just go rook f5 and win a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe queen.
I think might lose a bishop.
Yeah, maybe.
What about queen f4? Because then there would be no rook f5 because of the pin on the queen.
But then there's rook e1.
Oh yeah, those rook e1s are really fun.
Yeah. So somehow this position it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it looks like it should work, but I think black can hold this one.
Yeah. So many interesting tactical opportunities, but
yeah.
So this probably means d6 wouldn't be a good move here. But even without d6, it looks like a great position for white. Maybe you can just trade.
Well, if you trade, you can't exactly. You can still take on a6, but then I'll get f2 at the end because take, and then take on f2, and that just again looks like it's relatively even, especially from a material standpoint. And queen b7 going after the knight and the pawn would allow black to just play queen f5. I think white's better because of this past d5 pawn, but I don't think it's winning or anything.
Yeah, maybe knight b5. And it's weird. It's very odd. You can't.
What about queen c2 here, though?
Okay, yeah, queen c2 looks strong. And if I just go like, okay, rook f1.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think white has more of an advantage than I first thought here. Maybe the whole bishop f2 thing or the knight g4 line would have been a mistake, but he didn't actually play rook e8. Instead, here he played knight g4 immediately.
Okay.
And this, what he played, it's kind of like, oh, great. I think he's got me with this one. Like, not because he's winning anything, but just because after h3, which I played, his knight comes back to e5, and I feel like he's kind of broken out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So now, of course, probably have to trade. I mean,
yeah, I do.
Bishop 2, he just takes an f3 and puts the other knight on e5.
Yeah, that would not have made me very happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I might be able to make it work and then go something like this, where he goes knight e5, and then I play bishop e4. That's probably okay.
Looks reasonable.
Yeah, sure. I feel like at this point, though, I stopped thinking about this game in terms of I'm better, how do I press my advantage, as opposed to how do I make the right move and end up not worse.
Yeah, I don't think you're worse, but it does certainly feel like black might be okay. But okay, so you traded on e5.
Yes, and for some reason that I'm not really sure about, he took the bishops. He took the bishop. Any idea on that? Because it just seems a little bit fishy. Why not take with the knight?
Yeah, honestly, no real idea for me. If you take with the knight, I mean, this looks great. Either you play bishop e2 or bishop like b3 maybe, but then black can centralize the rook.
Yeah, he has
knight.
Well, I'd definitely go back to e2 so he can't centralize the knight. Thank you, queen f1. But I feel like still here, he just...
Maybe c4 is interesting. And
c4 is interesting.
I mean, if something like f4, maybe black is potentially willing to sack a pawn, something like knight d3.
Or just go bishop c5 check.
Oh, yeah. No, that would just be quite good. But, yeah.
I feel like all his pieces are kind of... Actually, I don't know about bishop c5 because then just king h1, as knight and pawn are both more active than I'd like them.
But maybe even...
But here he wouldn't be sacking a pawn because he can take on f4, winning it back in even material again. This kind of sad.
Yeah, but even if he doesn't take bishop pair, rook e8 is going to be played. Bishop c4, bishop c5, rook e3.
Yeah, he's got some serious compensation. My bishop on g5 is kind of awful.
Yeah, it's just completely out of the game. And you can't even move it because then he just takes on f4.
I might consider playing a5 here.
Or maybe here just h6 instead of rook e8. And then take on f4. I mean...
Oh, dang it. We definitely should have seen that sooner.
Yeah, no reason to play this as white. Black is just...
Yeah, this is not good.
Great position. But okay. He didn't take with the knight, which just honestly makes no sense. I think taking with the knight and playing c4, opening up the pieces, it just makes complete sense. But taking with the bishop, I mean, were you like shocked when he played this in the game? I mean, must have been.
Well, I wouldn't say shocked. I mean, my expression kind of looks something like this. But I don't know about shocked.
Yeah. It is certainly a strange move, but maybe it's fine. All right.
So about fine. It probably isn't as good, but he probably isn't losing anything here. He can probably still... I think I'm probably better now, but not like that much better or anything. So I just keep making moves that make sense. Rook e1, get my rook to the open file. He hits my bishop. And here, I'm going to say I play something very ambitious. Well, not ambitious, but like, this isn't the kind of move you'd see coming. I just put my bishop right in his face. Bishop b7.
b7, just... Yeah. That's a move. For sure. Okay, so...
And he can't exactly kick me out easily.
Yeah.
Rook e8, d6.
Yeah, and if he takes...
Bishop takes, tactics are not helping him right now.
Tactics are really, really bad for him. And also, if he potentially plays, I don't know, maybe knight f6, trying to improve the knight, again, d6. You can take the knight. Sorry, not g6. But of course, gf. Position looks miserable.
He is up a pawn.
Yeah, he is, but, I mean... You got a great...
It is doubled and they're isolated, so I'm probably doing okay here.
And yeah, D6 is a real big threat. So he has to somehow stop that. So
yeah, he played bishop d6 here.
Well,
Small thing though, I think he missed an opportunity. I think if he played bishop h2 check here, and then I moved my king, and then he played bishop d6. It'd be harder to centralize my king in the endgame, and f2 would be hanging. So it'd be just, well, not exactly hanging, but one less defender. So I feel like that's just a very little thing that would have helped him. But he played bishop d6 immediately. So here, I traded because, once again, my bishop on g5 wasn't really that helpful. In e7, he was going to get traded. I might as well do it like this, so that I could take control of the file.
Any consideration for knight e4 here?
Knight e4 immediately here.
Seems
what about queen e5 for black here, though?
Yeah, queen e5 is logical.
And if I go queen e2 here, he goes rook e8. Or actually, yeah, he goes.
Yeah, he goes rook e8 probably. But doesn't
And b takes d5, b takes a6, and b takes a6, b takes d5. So that'd be just a trade. But he's.
maybe you can play like queen d3.
Queen d3, isn't there just the pawn hanging on b2?
Yeah, okay, but what if you play like b3? Just telling him.
b3. How about bishop takes d5 here? Because I'm also kind of pressuring e4.
But here I'm wondering if there's knight f6, queen f6, bishop d5. Queen can take on a6 at some point. We've got the bishop against the knight.
We are down
Down
a
a
pawn, though. It's in that.
The only way
big.
for to keep the pawn is rook a7, and that move just rook e8, right? I mean rook e7 is just a awful.
Yeah, at this point, I'd easily have compensation for that.
Anything else, you take on a6.
Yeah, this is also pretty. I'm not gonna say this is like winning or anything, but this is probably an opening I could press for the win in. Don't know whether I'd get it, but worth a go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you control the e file. You have a strong bishop. Definitely seems like a good position for white. But okay, so maybe b3 is a move, but all right, you played queen e2 first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then he plays what I think is the best move. He just prevents me from infiltrating with e7. And so now I play knight e4. And my logic behind this is, once again, that bishop on c4, despite having been moved from e2, still manages to be my worst piece. And really, anywhere I put it on the board, it's going to be bad. So I feel like if I'm going to improve it, it means get that pawn out from in front of it. So that's pretty much exactly what I do. I play knight e4 to force the pawn to move, and so then my bishop will be on the exact same square, but he'll be kind of awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does seem like a good idea. Opening up the bishop, getting some activity. I'm wondering here, can he play queen e5? I think he played queen e7, right? But
Queen e5 was my main consideration here. My plan was basically just play queen f3, d6.
Queen f3. Yeah, so queen f3, threatening some stuff involving d6. And yeah, okay, I definitely see this.
I mean, once again, it's not winning, but I'm still better here.
Yeah, something like rook e8, maybe.
d6, absolutely.
d6, of course, yeah, threatening the checkmate. Does look good, but I'm
probably bishop d5 is a little forced. I mean, it looks scary, but how do you actually defend the checkmate other than going bishop d5? Well, knight f6. Yeah.
I was wondering maybe f5, but maybe this is just now queen h5.
Queen h5 looks interesting for sure.
Well, bishop d5. Okay, maybe black is.
Huh. Well, what if I play knight g5 here? No, then just queen takes c1. We've got a lot going wrong very quickly. What about queen takes e8?
Queen takes e8. Wow, what a move!
Actually, queen takes. Never mind. Yeah. What a move.
Well, but this position hangs a knight. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it hangs a knight.
Without that knight,
it looks really tempting, but it just doesn't. Yeah. F5 is probably
maybe a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I probably would have had to find something other than d6 here.
Mm-hmm. All right, but he did not play queen e5. He played.
Actually, here's an idea. Queen e5, queen f3, rook e8, and then instead of d6, just rook e3. Because now there's no pin on e4,
Yeah.
which means
Yeah,
I can start pulling all sorts of discovered attack shenanigans.
And
And
now,
d6 on the next move.
can he take on d5? This is a weird.
Possibly. That would be somewhat unfortunate if he could.
I don't know if I'm missing anything, but
Okay. Oh, I got it. Or do I? No, I don't got it. Never mind.
I think I see what you're trying to go for. I really wanted to make something like this work, where if he takes the queen,
Yeah, but
that would have been really nice.
that'd be really cool. The problem is knight just takes.
Yeah, and this is going to be a loss. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be a loss.
maybe he
That'd
actually
be very sad.
maybe he can take. But okay, I mean this is kind of unnecessary for a move that was not played.
Not played.
Queen e7 was played, but now I mean
d6 is with tempo.
Yeah,
At this point, I feel like he kind of threw in the towel with the middle game. He just said, "Okay, this position isn't going well for me at all. Let's just trade everything off and go and do an endgame that isn't good for me, but maybe I'll hold a draw."
Yeah, this endgame looks very nice for white. I mean, the infiltration to e7, attacking everything. Means
he was not about to let that happen. He just played rook e8 and accepted that he'd be down a pawn, probably hoping he'll win d6 back.
Yeah, but I mean, this endgame is definitely not something you want to be playing, especially against someone 400 points lower rated. White is going to press forever and try and win this. Black, just no real chances for black here. He's either going to hold a draw or he's going to lose. So yeah, it's an interesting endgame. So, David, here it seems like a critical moment. Your opponent plays king d8. What's your plan to win this endgame?
Basically, step one, I want to keep his king off of my pawn. As soon as he moves his knight, I'm playing bishop b5 and giving his king no path to go after my pawn. I'm going to use the time while his knight heads after my pawn to get my king active to the point where even after he potentially wins the pawn back, I'm just going to have such an active king that it won't matter, and I'll be winning the king and pawn endgame. That said, I think the way I went about this plan did not work the way it should have. I played king f1, which in hindsight did not work for reasons that will soon be apparent. I think either king h2 or just bishop b5 immediately and being non-committal about where I want my king to go is probably the best.
Yeah, maybe.
But king f1 immediately led to some nasty tactical stuff.
So here, what your opponent plays knight f8.
Yeah. At that point, he was headed for d6, so I want to win the endgame. I can't let him get there. And now he plays knight e6, which immediately is blocking my king from e2 because king e2, knight d4 check. And then he wins the pawn back, and my king's a little more active, but not enough, and my pawns are...
Yeah, this is probably going to be a draw.
Yeah, this looks drawish, probably at best.
Yeah.
Although at best seems the most likely.
Okay.
So here, I decide to make, from the computer's perspective, one of the less astute moves. From my perspective, I thought it was pretty clever. I was thinking that on the next move, he'd play knight d4 and drive me off of the diagonal. So in order to stop him from doing that, I have to just create another square and sacrifice a pawn in the process.
a5. Wow. Okay. Ooh, okay. All right. Things are getting interesting.
They are.
So, okay, yeah. I'm wondering if this endgame is still winning. after b2?
I believe the computer says that black is actually 0.5 of a pawn better.
Oh, okay. Well, it definitely doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that at all. Apparently, the knight has some ideas on the king side, I'm pretty sure, that really annoy me. But
so, alternatives to a5. If you go just king e1, knight d4, and bishop c4. Anything to be said for this, or maybe he just plays f6?
I'm sure there is something to be said for it, but I don't know what to say about it. I'm joking. F6 probably is wise. It's just he's going to win the pawn now because the knight's covering both e6 and b5, so my bishop can't get to the d7 square. The pawn is dead, and this is probably just a draw.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I'm just still better because I'm up a pawn in this endgame. And so if I'm looking at turning this into a draw, then even if the computer is against me, I still would not do that.
Okay. So yeah. So a5. Really an interesting move.
Yeah.
And
it would definitely get the exclamation point question mark.
David, I have to use the restroom quickly. I'm just gonna do that real quickly, if that's okay.
Okay. I'll talk to the viewers about the time situation while you were gone. So at this point in the game, we were both under some time stress. I'm pretty sure he had maybe 5 minutes left and me maybe a few more. So it was not the kind of game that it's going very well. It's dramatic, let's just say that. And a lot of mistakes were definitely made in the end game. And yeah, that's about all I have. Wait for him to get back.
As a reminder to everybody, tomorrow, 8 p.m., I'll be going over this analysis with Grandmaster Elshan Muradiabadi. So I hope everybody, including perhaps the two that are on the show, to also see the analysis and how this analysis compares to the analysis of Grandmaster Elshan Muradiabadi. See what you got right, what you got wrong. And yeah, this ends a commercial break, but let's do one more commercial break. Sunday, big tournament, Dr. Oscar World ICA Championships. It is on our website, icanj.net. If you go there, you'll see information about our tournament. It's Sunday for all levels. And this concludes the commercial break. I'm going back off screen. Enjoy the show.
I'll say I've played in that tournament a lot of times. It's a lot of fun. Anyway,
yeah.
Back to the game. So, I, once again, don't want to go king e2. Now, I don't think it will result in a draw because he'll get my bishop. That would result in a loss.
Of course.
And so, I'll go bishop a4. And the game continues. He's now heading around to f5 and trying to go after d6. And he's shouldering my king, because my king can't go to e2 now, which is annoying. He's making waste another move. This is why I think my king would have been better suited routing through h2 way back when I played king f1, because f1, he just has so much of a knight annoyance. And so I have to waste another move. He goes here. I have to save my pawn, so I do that. And now he plays knight d6. An alternative would have been knight h4, which I'm pretty sure is the computer's recommendation. Don't quote me on that, though.
I think this looks good. G3, there's knight f3. And
yeah, it's just...
And I guess...
that knight can be pretty tricky.
I guess you can go...
It's a nightmare.
Here, maybe? But... again, maybe knight g6 to e5.
After that, I'd probably have to go like king e2. He'd head to e5. I'd go to e3. He'd take on d7. I probably wouldn't trade. I'd probably just go to e4. And I don't think I'd really have much. My king is slightly more active, but I don't think that'd last very long.
Something like
Knight, knight b6. I'm pretty sure is forced. So if you move the king, I'd then be able to. Let's go back to that for a second.
Yes.
King e7. I could trade now, and I'd have made him waste a move. So now I'm winning c5, and I'm pretty sure I could also win a5 and win the king and pawn endgame. That's what I was saying a while ago about having a more active king even once everything trades.
Right. Of course. So yeah, that would definitely be interesting. But he went knight d6.
Yeah, he's choosing a. I'm pretty sure he's going to c4 and b6 to harass my bishop again because it worked the first time. So let's do it again. And this time, I really come up with something exciting here. I just go king d2 anyway. He checks. I go king c3. He goes back, and then I just move the bishop. And I'm saying that he can take my pawn on d7 now, because then I'll play king c4. I'm not going to trade. If he moves the knight, then I take on c5. And a5 is going to be tough to defend. It might still be drawable, but it looks tough. And if he moves the king, then we get into a similar position to what was talked about in the other line, where once again my king is just winning a5 and then using the outside pawn to get at the 3 pawns over here and win the endgame that way. So by that logic, if he can't move the knight and can't move the king, then he can't take the pawn there. So he sees this, and so he plays king e7. And here, it looks like he's just going to move back and forth from e7 to d8 to e7 to d8. Time trouble is still trouble. I've got maybe 5 minutes on the clock. I'm pretty sure he had maybe 3. And so it's easy to mess this one up, but it's hard to find a way forward for me. But I say, hey, if I can move my king to c4 from c3, why not just go d3? And if takes on d7, I'll do the exact same thing. So he then goes g6. And I'll say probably more accurate would have been f5. It would have stopped the king from reaching e4. But I understand g6. When I do go king e4, he wants to stop me at f6. And now, stuff took those. The knight is covering d5, the pawn's covering e5, the pawn's covering f5. There's just a whole, basically, fortress that I'm not able to break through here. So I decided I should bring up pawns to help me out. I'm planning to go g4 to h4, and then see if I can get a breakthrough on the king side that stretches defense.
Quite logical play, yeah. Because these pawns look a little fragile. If you can get a pawn to h5, you either have to make him commit to taking, pushing, which would let your king in, or something else, I guess. Pretty much nothing else. So, for example, I don't know, if he just goes back and forth, suddenly h5, and
yeah, it looks nasty. I feel like if I went h4 first, though, without going g4, like if I play h4 here, he could go h5, and these 2 pawns still cover it all.
You know what I'm wondering is if there's f5 here?
f5. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, of course, g5.
G5, then I've suddenly got a path to f pawn that's going to be...
King.
Actually, I don't know about that, because f6, then the knight can probably get away with taking on d7. Then f7. He probably has to go king e7 to catch the pawn. I take the knight, and he takes the pawn.
And this endgame probably should be winning. King f5. You gobble up all the pawns.
Yeah. That looks good for me. I'd be completely happy with this. So, yeah. I feel like if he
would have to play knight f8.
Knight f8. Now, there's a funny one. I was not thinking about that. And I can't exactly go king d5 to king f, because Actually, I like king d5 because after king e7, there's this bishop e8 thing. I can take these two pawns, but I think maybe king f5 works a little bit better because
And
those two pawns are a little closer.
I like king f5 because it makes a couple threats taking this pawn, but also if you save the pawn, maybe now.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's a good one.
But yeah, maybe also you don't have to play f6. Maybe just king e5. And now it's knight d7.
Well, trade
Game
king
again.
f6,
Oh yeah, king f6.
and you're reaching g7 and pushing the pawn before he really has a chance to respond.
Mm-hmm. So maybe h4 would be a good move. Immediately just going for h5 to try and break apart this kind of suspicious structure.
That works. I think that maybe explains why he played his next move, g5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so here,
No. Okay. Maybe king f5. I don't know.
actually, I wasn't crazy about that move because after king f5, he can take the pawn, and suppose something like this happened, he'd have a majority on the queen side that he could rush me with before I could get my king side pawn rolling, and I could potentially even lose this.
Mm-hmm.
Although it could just be a draw.
So if we go down the line, you guys both make a run for it.
Actually, yeah, doesn't really matter which pawn you start with. King there, c4, king takes, and then a3. That way, you'll get a check with the c pawn.
And you probably just lose here, right?
Yeah, this is sad.
Wow.
I would be really disappointed to have a game like this end this upsettingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be a bad ending. So that means king f5. Maybe not the greatest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure after this movie, I had 1 minute on the clock, and I had, I don't know, I just don't remember the time that well. It was a while ago. So I just decided that trading here would be good. I was expecting him to take with the h pawn, at which point I'd be thinking about g3, h4, and then start rushing the king side.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how good that'd be, though. I was under time pressure, and I figured that was my best chance for a win. Then he takes X like that, and now I'm really confident. And so here, I play b3.
Yeah, I love b3. Such a
And
nuanced move. Because again, king f5. Well, actually, maybe this is a better version of this. But at the same time, again,
I don't know if it's winning or if it's just a better version, though.
Yeah, because you, of course, would love to do something like this. Just win all.
You sure about that? There's still that a4, c4 thing.
Yeah, but there's some silly stuff. I'm wondering if b3 kind of prevents the a4 c4 idea. Maybe not. Maybe
I was actually here thinking about just putting my king on e5, locking everything down, and then zugzwanging him into going to d8. So something where the king is just moving back and forth. I'll go g4. He moves the king back up to e7, and then I just go king e5. And that would basically zugzwang him into trading here.
And then just king d4.
Yeah, I should probably play that out on the board, though.
Mm-hmm.
King there. King side is now locked. Or king side is now locked. Either way. If he goes here, I'll go here, and he has real problems. So he trades. Take. And because of this, I'm winning this. I'm winning this. He has equally real problems.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Actually, wait a minute. I think I see something unfortunate in the slide that I was never going to see. Actually, no, not this line. Knight takes, king here. Can he go here?
If you take up the king,
if I take with the king, he goes here, and his king is just in the right spot to keep me out.
Ooh, this is.
And if I take with the pawn, he starts rushing his pawn down the board, and as I make the capture, his king gets active, and I might even be losing here.
Yeah, you probably are losing here. Oh, so c4.
So
Same move.
that said, with a minute on the clock, it's going to be hard for him to see
Maybe
this.
just king d5. Keep the minor pieces on the board. You're again winning this pawn.
Yeah, that's good. Hope I would have seen that.
Yeah. So it's all really hard to calculate with such little time on the clock. But after b3, he played c4.
Yes, this was actually, I think the computer liked that move best. It liked my capture best, but now it once again says that he can take that. Kind of what I was suggesting, but in a different order. Because after the trade, I can't exactly get that a5 pawn. It's just a draw. Or worse. But here he makes the mistake of the game, I'm pretty sure.
So if you play knight d7, what do you think your plan here would be? Maybe just king.
What would I play here?
Maybe just king
Good
f5.
one. What about king f5?
Knight of 8.
How about knight b6?
Mm-hmm.
Or even no, yeah,
I'm afraid.
yeah, knight f8 looks better.
Yeah,
Knight f8 just covers everything.
And if you go for something like king g4, you get close, but I don't think this is good enough.
Now I have to start I want to turn shenanigans into a verb, but I'm failing, so forget it. I'm not sure if that can be a verb. I could start shenanigans on there, but I don't think it would amount to much.
Yeah, this position is probably just a draw. Unless you decide to play g4 and mate yourself after
I don't
6.
I don't think I'm that adept at endgames.
No, of course, but it's just a funny way that white
Yeah,
end up losing the game. Which would
that does look pretty funny.
yeah, it's just that would be terrible. But yeah, that would just be a draw. So yeah, after 97, pretty much a done draw, right? I mean,
Yeah. Luckily for me, he's under like extreme time pressure here, and he makes an incorrect move. He just plays a4 here. And here I just go king d4, and now this should be a winning endgame.
And now the pawn is stopped. Now if he goes for this.
Yeah, now I can catch him in time. Now I can go, yeah, I can block him out, and I'll be up the pawn on the outside, and I'll win this.
No, yeah, this is going to be one. Left to white. So now he can't take. The pawn is stopped. For anyone watching who doesn't know, the king is in what we call the square, which is this area. If the white king is in this square, it'll be able to stop the pawn no matter what. Example, a3, a2. King just gets to b2 in time, and the pawn is stopped. So yeah, king d4, and now
he comes up with something. What does he play next? I'm pretty sure he's a3 next anyway.
Mhm.
And then he goes h5. Then he's pressing on the other side. And here I play something a little inaccurate. I probably should have just gone after the pawn, played king b3 or something. But here I thought that I could just play g3 just to be more accurate and lock everything down. And so then I do just that. And now he comes up with knight a8, which I kind of underestimated. I thought, okay, I'm just winning. He has 8 seconds of the clock now, so just grab the pawn. I just completely underestimated the knight moving down to f4.
well, yeah, hold on. Yeah, okay.
Even though it should still be winning here.
Yeah, but you're pushing the pawn. Knight f4. Yeah, okay. And
And
here,
here I make the move that make the computer hates me for it. It says it's a draw now after bishop f1. King
yeah,
c5 would have been completely
this
winning
this is
because
a critical moment. King c5.
like
Obviously,
you'd probably get a queen after king c5, but I'd probably get two.
Yeah,
I
and
wasn't thinking in those terms. I was thinking in terms of how do I prevent him from getting a queen,
yeah.
and that
So
was
after king
my
c5, if he goes for h3,
just. I want to say c7 now.
um, yeah, c7,
Knight e6, king c6.
and he's promoting. Well, actually, he's not. You can even stop the pawn, but okay, white just wins.
This check, yeah, it's over.
So king c5 would be a win, but bishop f1, h3. Suddenly, there's no way for this bishop to defend. It's quite alarming. You can't play king c5 now because h2 comes and bishop g2 is impossible. And there's no way for the bishop to prevent this pawn from queening. No way to get on this long diagonal. For an example, bishop c4. Again, there's no way to get here. Bishop d3 and e2. The knight just covers, and the knight is the one that dominates the bishop. You can't go anywhere over here because the pawn, of course, is blocking the bishop.
Yeah,
And
this
now,
was. So I basically had to trade
and play king c5, but this probably should be a draw.
This should be a draw. And this is where the most outrageous part of the game happens. So we start repeating we start making moves, and the computer says 0-0, and he sighs with relief, like okay, I finally got this draw. And I think he's just so relieved he zones out with 8 seconds on the clock and runs out of time, and I win. It's so outrageous and ironic that he got a draw, but then zoned out and lost.
Yeah, then he just lost. Yeah, so kind of a lucky win at the end.
Yeah, very anticlimactic when you think about it.
But it was for sure a deserved win. I mean, David, you played really well. The whole middle game was winning. But strong players, you have to beat them over and over and over. You can't just get a winning position. You have to keep playing the best every time. And one slip up.
Bishop f1.
Yeah, just bishop f1. But with time trouble, bishop
anything can happen.
Logical. And of course, with king c5, you have to at least show a little bit of calculation, because the opponent is going to end up making a queen, but you just have to realize, it's faster. So yeah, overall, really, really interesting game. A lot of nuances through even the opening unconventional move by the opponent. Through the middle game, so many different plans. That knight d2 idea was once a plan. Really when you decided to.
It would have been nice to make that one work.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity there.
Yeah, and honestly, a really interesting position, a really interesting structure. And if we go back to even before this endgame, just around even a time like this, it's an interesting structure. It's an isolated pawn here, but black is cramped. Black doesn't have a great bishop. And yeah, so interesting structure, interesting game, interesting endgame too. So many different nuances. So overall, I think it was a very interesting game. I certainly enjoyed analyzing it.
Thank you. I enjoyed analyzing it as well.
Yeah, and I hope hope the viewers enjoyed the analysis of this game. And yeah, that's, I think, going to be it for tonight. We've gone a bit over, but that's completely
Yes,
fine.
quite a bit.
And tomorrow, do not forget to come back for the ICA show 2 nights in a row. It's an absolute deal. This is great for anyone anyone who wants to learn some chess. Because tomorrow, as
Anyone,
previously
Andy
said,
wants to see how we messed up this analysis horribly, I'm sure.
yeah. Tomorrow we have Grandmaster Elshan Moradi Badi and Alan to analyze our analysis. So I certainly think that's going to be interesting. I'm for sure going to tune in. And
Yeah.
hopefully everyone's having a great night. And I believe that's going to be it for today. All right.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching, and tune in tomorrow for Grandmaster analysis. Thank you guys, and good night.
Good night.